Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jake Blanchard podcast. We're just diving in today. Usually I start out with a long intro after I've already done a pre-intro. The Jakester's doing something a little bit different today. So I got my brother, Matt Jantz, here today with me. Excited to have him on the program. Matt, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Jake. How you been, man?
Dude, I've been doing good. I just got a little workout in this morning. It was a chest day. I'm doing a workout program called Battle Ready, and my trainer's an absolute asshole. And so my chest is burning right now. But other than that, man, I'm feeling great. I stayed up till 2:00 in the morning last night, had a little work to do. So burn that midnight oil. But other than that, how about yourself?
Grind, right?
Yeah, gotta grind sometimes. Yeah. But I was actually doing it with a happy heart. Like I was really, really interested in the project. I didn't have a deadline. I just got sucked into it. And so every now and then I honor that feeling and just do it.
That's the best, man. Time just flies because you're having fun. And if you're doing it, making money, man, what's better than that?
I hear that.
I'm really good, man. I actually, last night I went and did a recording session. I'm working on an album right now where I'm playing all the parts. And so that was really cool. Been plugging away at that for a while. It's been a journey. It's definitely harder to record than I imagined, but we're getting it knocked off, man. And then I went and had a couple beers at the Crescent Brewery, checked out a local band, and yeah, life's good, man. I got kind of a light show week this week, so I'm just kind of taking a little time to work on some of the things that I need to do personally, and a little bit of writing, professional music shit, that you got to knock out as just kind of your I don't want to say comeuppance, but your things you got to do to make sure your saw sharp,
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really interested in the process of recording an album, and doing all of the composition yourself. I think so. You might as well change your name to Jantz, right? That's what Beck did. He just went with one name. Doesn't Beck do all his own stuff?
Yeah, I think he does. That dude plays like 12 instruments. He's got me beat. But no, I actually I haven't released anything. I haven't had to put anything out, but I think I've been playing music for a while, Matty J and the Cajon alone, shameless promotion here. But I think when I put out music, it'll probably be Matty J. And then if I want to put a band to it, I was thinking like Matty J and the Grays, because nice. I like the dual meaning, because I think the alien shit is fascinating, but also like the gray, I believe a lot in the gray. Like white and black aren't really as guaranteed as people think a lot of times. Almost everything lives in the gray. So I liked that idea as like a potential name when I put a band together. But yeah, for now, just trying to plug away and get this album done, man. It's been brutal. I played the drums for a long time, as you've known. And when growing up, I just never played to a metronome. And I was in band, I was in orchestra, I played in bands, and you have a director, so you can follow him, you follow the whole band, but when you're on your own and you got to play to that just click in your ear, it's brutal.
Oh, I bet, man. I haven't played much to a metronome, but I was thinking about this the other day. So I'm sneaking it up on 17 years of living in Idaho, and you and I first met around August, September of the year that I moved here, because it was my first semester in college. It was maybe your third year. I think you're 2 years older than me, something like that, 3 years older than me.
Well, you have to remember, I took a little break, not necessarily when I wanted.
Oh, sure. Roger that.
Did you move there in 04 or 05?
I was there in 05.
Okay. So it was my second year at Boise State.
Okay. Yeah. So we had like a weightlifting class, I think. It was something along those lines.
Man.
Yeah, Coach Pitts. We started talking, and you were like, yeah, I'm a drummer. And then we started talking about musical interests. And oddly enough, you and I overlapped pretty heavily as far as like bands we like and shows that we were looking forward to seeing and those types of things. So I think pretty
36 quickly, Crazy Fist, baby.
36 Crazy Fist. Shout out the 36 Crazy Fist.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Kill Switch Engage, As I Lay Dying, like a bunch of these kind of like random, rock, metal, like kind of screamo-ish. I don't know how
metalcore, I think, was the term back then. Yeah,
metalcore. That's exactly
metalcore. It was like hardcore and metal mixed together.
So yeah, definitely aligned on the metalcore. And then you and I got together and played for a little bit, just a bassist and a drummer, rocking out a few times.
Just had the rhythm so well,
dude.
Had the rhythm section so dialed.
Dude, we jived, man. It was fun. But I'm curious, what got you into music in the first place?
So my oldest brother Eric, my family's a little weird, in a good way. I had an older brother and sister that were 7 and 8 years older than me, respectively. And so my oldest brother Eric he was into music hardcore. So like, he was in bands, he was singing, he was writing music, he was listening to music. And so, when I was a kid, and my dad was cool about it. Like it's kind of funny because after my brother got so hooked on it, he was like, you guys aren't going to be rock stars, you're going to go to college. And my brother Eric did too, but there was just always musical instruments around, and we were always watching his band and watching his drummers, and this shit's just sitting there. Of course, we're little kids, we're going to fuck around on it.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of that's really, yeah, my brother Eric Jantz is the biggest like driver of me being into music, period, and playing instruments. He actually he was actually the one that got me my first drum set. My dad adamantly did not want me to play the drums because,
Oh
um,
no.
well, he just like, he didn't want us to try and be rock stars. Like he was a practical guy. He was a mechanical engineer, very smart guy, and he didn't want us to get caught up in rock star fantasies and get distracted from education and school and the things that. Are you having a Coors Light this morning? God damn, Jake! I didn't know it
No,
was
I'm
gonna be that
not.
kind
This
of
is
podcast.
unfortunately it's just
Uh,
water, but it's a it isn't a silver bullet cup, isn't it?
it isn't Super Bowl Cup. But yeah, it was that was kind of where it started for me. Was my oldest brother Eric. He actually, like, it was funny because then I really wanted to play the drums, right? And so he gave me advice on how to trick my dad into letting me play the drums almost. And then my brother Eric actually, like, it was the one for Christmas. He ended up tracking down a drum set for me. He threw in on it. My mom threw in on it. My dad threw in on it. I threw in on it, and basically got me this amazing uh, just surprise Christmas present. And my dad loved to like do goofy shit to surprise us. So like he'd give us the batteries for a present and then give us the directions to go find it. Like so anyway, so they gave me the snare drum for Christmas. They wrapped it up, and then the drum set was down in the basement. So I got the snare drum and I was disappointed, but I was trying so hard to be like not, because I didn't want to be a little asshole on Christmas. And they were like, why don't you go down in the basement and play it? And so I went down in the basement, and there was my drum set. So yeah, my brother Eric was just hugely integral in me getting into it. What I listened to, I didn't listen to New Kids on the Block. I listened to Metallica and Pantera and Slayer. My first concert was Slayer when I was 14. So
Oh,
yeah, I,
dude.
I owe
There-
fucking almost everything as far as music goes to my brother Eric.
there's a there's a live Slayer performance. I can't find it on the internet. I've looked for it. I hope it's up on YouTube somewhere. Maybe I just didn't look hard enough. But Kerry King from Slayer comes out and he looks at the crowds and he goes, how are you enjoying your life? And then they play Raining Blood, and it's one of my it's one of my favorite like intros to a song ever, because he's just, that intro to Raining Blood, so iconic. And Kerry
Mhm.
King, just such an iconic rock musician. That's a hell of a first concert.
Yeah, it was nuts, man. It was very cool.
I went
Actually,
to
I got to meet Tom Araya. So my oldest brother Eric, what's really cool about him, I mean, it was unfortunate, but it was really inspiring. He was in a wheelchair. He had an accident when he was 14 years old, and he was playing music before that, and so he had to basically relearn how to play the guitar and the bass without the use of his fingers, which is pretty fucking nuts, as a bass player.
yeah.
But yeah, so he was in a wheelchair, and the thing about my brother is he was never afraid to exploit that chair. Like, so we actually got to go into Slayer early because he was in the wheel, and he kind of played the, like, I don't remember how, but he got us in early. And fucking Slayer is in a circle playing soccer before the show in the pit. And we're just kind of standing there like fucking around, and someone kicked the ball and it came to me. So I picked it up, and Tom Araya from Slayer came over and I gave him the ball, and he said, thanks, man. So I got to meet Tom Araya at my first Slayer concert. I consider that a meeting.
Oh yeah, man, that's so funny. First concerts are hilarious, man. My first real concert that I went to, that I like purposely wanted to go to and had to take. I think I've seen live musicians play like when you were a kid, like they're, in different bars and things like that. But like a show, proper
Mhm.
buying ticket, proper excited, was Godsmack. My dad, he came with me. I was 15, and I had my learner's permit to drive up in Alaska. So
Uh-huh.
I got to drive from Soldotna to Anchorage, which was a big deal for me, about 150 miles. And
Uh-huh.
then we go to the concert. My dad's wearing a bright green golf polo, and he's got little golfers, little tiny golfers all over the place. And we're there
Yeah.
like an hour and a half early, just, you know, the way that everybody shows up to like their first concert, first gig. You're just so excited. You just want to be there all day. And there's this group of guys, these, I don't know, kind of maybe mid 30s, um, late 30s, kind of biker looking guys. They look at my dad and they're like, nice shirt. You know, they're like joking with him. Like they weren't trying to be mean. They're just kind of joking with him. My dad's like, dare to be different, brother. And I just remember like, man,
I love that, dude. That's such
yeah,
a stead response.
yeah. So we get up to
Brother.
yeah, he was dare to be different, brother. Like he just didn't,
Uh,
it wasn't his crowd, wasn't his deal. That was fine. But we get up to the rail. We had seen a local opener, the pretty well-known band called Makeshift in Alaska in the early 2000s that folks there listened to. I don't know if they ever broke out of Alaska, but and it was just fine. We were up against the rail, we were having fun, and then Godsmack comes on, and you know that big wave, that big push
mhm.
everybody makes, and they just smash you against the rail. My dad gets smashed at the rail. He looks over at me and he goes, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And he just jumps the fence. He goes, well, he goes, I'm going to go sit up there. See you later. And he just takes off. And I'm like, Dad, I didn't know what to do. So I jumped the fence too.
Yeah.
And then we watched the show from up top, but it was a pretty good concert. Those first concerts are crazy.
Yeah.
Good, man. So so your brother then got you into that rock music type scene. He introduced you to that type of music.
100%. Yeah. And then, after, once you kind of, and I mean, I'm not all metal either. I mean, I love 311 and Sublime, and that's a lot of the shit. Tom Petty. I'm really eclectic in my music these days, and I'm grateful for that. But like the metal helped me. I didn't really get into pop music. Like I don't give a fuck whatever you like to listen to. You like to listen to, but I just personally like it. It kept me from like, oh, this is on the radio, I'm gonna like it. It always kept me kind of searching for like, what is my like. There was more genres out there than what's on the radio, And so as soon as you hear rock and metal and stuff that's not mainstream or that's kind of like sub-mainstream, that sounds different than everything on the radio, then it shows you as a young person like, oh, there's more out there than what's on the radio. So yeah, I mean that was kind of my my foot in the door, and then from there it just kind of, I kicked it open. And yeah, I've got other friends and family members and stuff that have been musical influences. My buddy Ryan Johnson, he's introduced me to a ton of the metal bands that I follow now, and he's a great fucking musician too. He's an asshole, but he's a great musician. But no, he's like he's definitely influenced me a lot, and like pointed me to a lot of bands I really
Yeah.
enjoy, RX Bandits and Thrice, and I think he was the one that got me on Kill Switch and Trivium, and so yeah,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
a lot of my brother Eric was the one that like started it all.
I love it. I love it. I can remember back being a kid. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but the first song that I heard that I like knew that country music was no longer for me. I was a big country fan as a kid.
Okay.
And I still like country music. Like I still listen to it, but it's not my favorite. I heard Hard to Handle by the Black Crowes.
Uh-huh.
And when I was a kid, I could not get that little, hey, little thing, let me light your candle. Cause like, I could not get that out of my head. And I just started diving deeper and deeper and deeper into rock music as a result of listening to that song. And to your point earlier, just like things kick open the door, you start looking around, you explore all these things. So now we know you're deeply connected to music.
Mhm.
Brother, you invented something.
I did.
And I want you to talk a little bit about that, and maybe for the layman as well, maybe kind of give a little background on, because there's a cajon, but like
Yep.
maybe kind of help us understand the ecosystem and what drove you to develop said product.
Sure. So a little background, a cajon, it's a Spanish drum. It's a little wooden box. And it's really interesting because I actually had a guy, I forget where he was from, but he was like from the country where it was invented. And I guess it all came from like the slave trade back in the day. Because Africans would be sold to this South American country, excuse me, and they didn't have any of their bongos, so they started using drawers from like a bureau of drawers, and so they called it. That's like, I think cajon is actually Spanish for drawer. Don't
Really?
don't yeah. Anyway, so a cajon's a little wooden box, and you get all these cool tones out of it, a lot like a hand drum or a djembe. So you hit in the middle, you get a deep sound. You hit on the outsides, you get a high sound, right? So boom chick kind of feel. And so I think it was the end of 2015, maybe the early 2016. I'd gone to Idaho Falls for, winter vacation, and I'd spent the weekend skiing with my buddy Jim, and him and his family has a cabin up by Grand Targhee, and he had started his own business. He's working for himself, and so he gets up early and does some emails and does that shit, and then he's on the lift and he's like, "Hey, I got to answer a quick email." He answers an email, and then we go back to skiing, and I was just like, man, that looks amazing. It's kind of the sexy side of being an entrepreneur that I saw. And at
Yeah.
that point, I was just like, man, that'd be really cool to work for yourself. And now in hindsight, I didn't realize all the other shit that goes into it. But so I get all done with my weekend. I'm driving home, and I'd been playing the guitar for maybe 5 years at that point. How long had it been? A few years. I was decent at it, and I'd always played the drums. And so I'm driving, and I had this weird thought just pop in my head. I was like, I want to play the drums and guitar at the same time. And so it was weird. It just kind of like out of nowhere. And so the whole drive home, I'm thinking how I could do it, and I start kind of piecing it together in my head. And so I just bought a cajon like a year before that to play a show with my buddy Ryan. He was playing Ryan Johnson. He was playing a show. He's like, "Do you want to come play? Do you want to come play the drums with me?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I don't want to lug my whole drum set." He's like, "We'll get a cajon. It's this little wood box. You get all these stuff." I was like, "Oh, cool." So I bought it already. I had that, and then as a metal drum lover, I had a double bass pedal at home. If you don't know familiar with that, it's basically a pedal that lets you play one drum with both your feet, right? Instead of just playing with one foot. And so I had this thought like, well, what if I put those two things together and could play the drums with my feet using that? And so I kind of had an idea. I thought it the whole way home and kind of figured it out. And as soon as I got home, I tried to throw together a prototype. And so it was like a fucking folder from my house closing and a double bass pedal and my cajon. And I just sat there and I kind of like adjusted it. And I kind of figured it out. And like basically, so the whole point is, if you position one of the beaters right, you get a deep sound like a bass drum. You position the other one right, you get a high sound like a snare drum. And so that was my idea, was like, oh, well, I need to figure out how to make this work better. And so I basically came up with a system. I actually had a name and a marketing plan before I had a product, which is, I'm an old marketing guy. It's just the way my brain works. So I call it Cajon Alone because it's a cajon and it allows you to play music by yourself and have like a full band set by yourself. So Cajon Alone is the product name. Actually, I swear this wasn't planned. I just happen to have some cards next to me. Oh, and now it's not going to work because of my stupid background. But anyway,
no, you're good. I'll throw a little link to the old Cajon Alone so people can find that. So you can find that in the podcast notes.
Yeah. So yeah, I just had this idea and I was like, well, how do I go about that? And so I went down the path of, starting to figure it out and started telling my family because I was stoked about it, and my friends, and like, hey, look at this idea I had. And eventually ended up hooking up with one of my cousins, Tasha Schreiber, awesome mechanical engineer, and just one of the baddest motherfuckers as far as like building and inventing shit. He actually owned a company that was all about taking products from inception to prototype and often a market. And so and he's a musician too. So he really helped me figure out the mechanics of the Cajon Alone. So basically, like, I was looking at so basically the challenge was you needed some way to hook the double bass pedal to the cajon, and I didn't want to have to drill into it, right? So basically the invention now is just this little piece of plastic that slides under it and bumps up against the feet so it stays in place when you put pressure on it, and then you hook the double bass pedal to that little lip and it acts kind of like a bass drum lip. And there's videos on this if you check out the website. It's really hard to describe, especially if you're not like a drummer, you're not familiar with the pieces. And then basically my other piece of the invention was a shorter bass drum beater and a longer bass drum beater. So the shorter one would hit in the middle and the longer one would hit on the outside. So the middle gets you the deep sound like the bass drum. The outside gets you the high sound like a snare drum. So that was kind of my idea. And so, we figured out the little plate, which would let you attach it. I had a buddy come over and help me with the saw, cut down one of my standard bass drum beaters to a smaller size to get it to work, and that worked. And then it was just kind of a matter of figuring out how to produce it all. And so it was a really weird time and a really weird way everything happened. So basically I figured out how to produce everything, came up with a plan, got everything produced, got everything ready, was ready to launch. And then my dad got sick. My dad was one of the most important people in my life. He was we lived with him primarily. My parents were divorced. And so he was my fucking rock. And so he got sick. He had a rare case of lymphoma and his prognosis wasn't good. So I kind of put I put cajon alone on hold, and just, made sure I was able to spend time with my dad and do what I needed to do with my dad to try and help him get it through it, and just generally spend time with him, and I was lucky. I worked for Albertsons companies at the time, and my boss, Cliff Rigsby at the time, was just so cool about like, hey man, like your family's your priority. Take off when you need to. We got you. We got your back. We'll cover you. Don't worry about taking. Just go be with your family. And so did that for a year, and then my dad unfortunately passed away from the lymphoma, and that was in January of 2018. And so, I'd been thinking about busting off and doing something entrepreneurial for a long time, but clearly when my dad was sick and my family was going through all this, wasn't the right time. And so when he passed, it kind of, it was awful, but it was good because he was in so much pain. He was suffering so much. It was time to go, but it's still hard to lose someone like that, that's that integral in your life. And so the clock kind of started ticking in my head though. It's like, all right, man, clearly life's short. My dad lived a way healthier life than I do, and he died at like 65, so 67. So life's short, and so it kind of just started the clock ticking, and so a couple months after that, I came up with a plan, and ended up at that point deciding I didn't know if cajon alone was going to do anything. I had 150 units produced, and I knew where to produce it all, so I could keep it going. But I was like, I'm just ready to push all in on something. I'm ready to do me, right? And so came up with a plan, talked to Albertsons. Basically ended up giving them 9 weeks notice, so that I could hire my replacement and train my replacement and support the division the whole time. Because it's, not to be self-important, but it was a really, like, it was a fucking heavy job. Like, a lot went into it. I juggled a lot of things. I was responsible for a lot of things. And so I didn't want to leave them hanging high and dry. And I really cared about the people in the company. So anyway, so I did that and sold my house, moved into a camper trailer. And I traveled for a little while, and like 5 weeks, traveled down through the Pacific Highway. There's some old blogs on my website if you want to see some of those pictures. And then I ended up kind of coming back to, I live in, Cuna Meridian area now, and just kind of simplified my life and pared it down to where life was cheap and it was less stress. And then, that kind of, anyway, I feel like I'm going off on a tangent, but that's how cajon
No,
alone started.
no, I love that, man. The thing that I'm interested in is the mindset around departing from a job at like the one you had at Albertsons. Like you were, dude, I would go to a Boise State game and I remember you handing a check out on the field. Like you were involved in their marketing group. I don't know exactly what you did and what capacity, but I know you were overseeing, quite a bit
Yeah.
in the organization. You went to Boise State. We went to college together. I remember you in the business school. I remember, and you had a career, 10
Yeah.
plus, 12 plus years.
Well, yeah, I worked for Albertsons from the time I was like 16 till when at some point when I graduated. The Super Value owned them, so they were centralized in Minnesota. And so I worked for them for a long time. I worked at the store, and I worked all through college, and I went to school for marketing. So yeah, the job I got was like the fucking job you want if you get out of school and you've worked at a retailer your whole life and you have a marketing degree. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a leap because, yeah. And it's funny, I joke now about like I worked so hard to like stop working weekends, and now I work weekends again because I play music. But yeah, it was a legit job, tons of great perks. It was the number 2 grocer in the country. And yeah, it was traditional grocer, I should say. But yeah, it was a huge deal. And my friends and family, most of them couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Because it's like you have this great job with all these benefits and all these perks, and I guess they just couldn't understand like why I wasn't satisfied with it and why I wasn't happy with it. And it wasn't the company, it wasn't the job, it was me. Like it wasn't my passion, it wasn't what I wanted to do. Not to be callous, but I don't give a fuck how many 12 packs of Coke y'all buy. And
Right.
so that was just like my mindset, and I was just I just didn't want to do it anymore. And so nothing against Albertsons. I loved working for them. They were a great company. I just knew that I wanted to try to do it on my own, And really from my experience in the corporate world, you're never really making a decision unless there's a C in front of your name.
Yeah.
You can make tiny ones if you want, but you're never going to make a big decision unless there's a C in front of your name. And so that was, to me, I really wanted to make decisions, And I had some great bosses, and And I wouldn't say Albertsons did anything wrong as far as their strategy or anything. I just wanted to be the guy pulling the trigger and making the choices, making
Oh
the
yeah.
decisions, you know.
So
So
then you became the guy pulling the trigger, making the decisions for Cajon alone and in your life. And then what you must have grappled with it for a while. There must have been some oh shit moments. What did I do? There must
oh
have
man, yeah,
been like
dude. Well,
take me through that, because you walk out on a ledge, the ledge
yeah.
of passion, right? And then you just jump off. You free fall. You put yourself out there. What were those early days like, man?
I got to tell you, my biggest struggle was getting going.
Yeah.
I had made myself very comfortable. I had sold my house. I had equity in it. Be a lot fucking more now if I'd have kept it. But yeah, I had a ton. I had money in the bank. I didn't have any bills. I had very low cost of living. And so like my biggest challenge was to get off my fucking ass, man. Like
Yeah.
when I first got back, and I was grieving my dad. And I was like, I had been go, go, go for so many, you're just fucking 100 miles an hour from the time you're 5 years old to when you graduate college and start your career and whenever they jump off. So like that was the biggest thing, was like I gave myself a little grace, like, all right, you need some time to fuck off and have fun and like enjoy and relax. But at a point it starts getting frustrating. You're like, dude, you gotta go, you gotta do something, and so I actually ended up taking a consulting job for a weight loss company just to get moving, just to get myself out of my fucking house. And so
Yeah.
I started doing that. I got back involved with Boise Young Professionals. I just started trying to, like, I've just known this about myself for a long time, that when I fill my calendar, I'm more productive. And so I just started trying to fill my calendar again, and then all of a sudden it's full. And I was also I was doing Cajon alone. I was playing live music, which was cool. I had a handful of shows. It was nothing amazing. I'd play maybe one or two shows a month, two or three sometimes. I was in a band. I played the drums in a band that played one show a month or so.
Well,
So
and
I
then
was playing a bit,
we,
but not a.
during this period of time you're talking about, we tried to get something going. We tried to get a little 90s cover band going. Me,
We
you,
did.
Josh Schley, Aaron Hudson. It was
Randy Perkins,
Randy Perkins, yeah,
boy
from
Randall from Albertsons.
shout out to 100.3, the ex Randy
Oh, dude, I
Perkins,
love the
Rebel
X.
Randy, yeah.
I mean, some of the best DJs in the world and some of the best music in the world too. And those guys actually they've been so supportive of me, man. Nick and Big J and Randy and Adam and Dylan, the whole crew, man. They've been great. But
Adam
yeah,
was actually one of my very first podcast guests I had
was
on
he right?
here. Yeah. It
That's
was like
cool.
episode 5 or something like that. I've always wanted to have I've known him for 10 or 15 years. I mean, as he was working at the X and seeing him
Yeah.
at shows and building a relationship. But I was like, I'm so interested in the esports world. Like, or at the time I was just like, he's an expert in that. Let me talk to, like, he's been doing the announcing and he's
Yeah.
deeply integrated into the culture. So he definitely gave me an education. But yeah, those like Boise for mid-market radio, rock
It's good
stations,
shit. Oh yeah.
100.3 the X, you can't beat it. So just but yeah, continue though. You started booking these shows, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I started booking some shows, and then I was working for the weight loss company doing business development. It was a contractor deal. The whole deal was I was going to help them open and have a successful open and get members and all that. And so a big thing I loved the Cajon alone at the time. I loved the Cajon alone. I just didn't think it would ever be like something that would support me, because it's such a niche and it's such a weird little like product. I love it, dude. I do backflips over it. A lot of people do, but it's just very like, it's a limited market, right? And so I wanted to do something in hemp. And so I end up, I get a friend request from a guy up in Sandpoint that owned a company called Global CBD. We ended up meeting up. I decided to invest with them, and then I went to work for them for a little while. And I don't want to drag. I don't want to pull too many skeletons out of the closet. But let's just say things didn't work out,
Sure.
and I lost my investment.
Sure.
And so then I was at this point where actually right around that time was when the pandemic hit too. So you just add a fucking shit sandwich on top of a shit lasagna pie, right? And so like I'm sitting home, I'm lonely, I live by myself. I was climbing the walls, nobody was happy, I was scared. There's a fucking earthquake in Idaho. Like it
Oh,
was just like
dude.
this weird time, man,
Uh,
weird time. And so
that
I
earthquake
find
day, I was actually working from home. That obviously everybody was working from home, but like I I just remember looking at my wife and being like, I don't know. I think we need to start reading the book of Revelations. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I'm Gonna have to
I went and
dust
bought,
off the old gonna have to dust off the old King James and take a peek about what's coming, man. It felt like that, didn't it?
no shit. I went and like the day that happened, I went and bought 2 extra clips for my 9mm and a bunch of ammo because I was like,
I
I don't know what the fuck's
dude,
going
I did.
on.
I bought so many accessories. Oh man, I don't want to
Oh,
get into that.
but that was weird though. So yeah, at that point I was like, I was getting like, I couldn't even see my family, you know? And so after a little while, I just like, I saw that there was a few places in Nampa that were booking music, and I was lonely and I was bored. And I was like, you know, at this point, I would rather risk catching this thing than sit here by myself any longer. And so I started booking and I started playing music during the pandemic. And the businesses were they tried to be safe about it and follow the guidelines and limited seating and all that. But that was when I really started getting out and playing quite a bit of music. And a lot of other people in the music community weren't, you know, they weren't willing to take the risk, or they whatever. I mean, they just didn't want to do it. Or and I don't blame them, you know. I don't think I'm a badass or anything. I was lonely, I was miserable, I needed to do something. And so
Yeah.
at that point I started playing music out and about. And then as we came out of it, I was actually in a position, in a really good spot to where I could just kind of leap off the momentum I had and keep booking. And so I was booking music. I did a little bit of a sales gig for a company um, that's actually really amazing. It's called Agrimax. It's a water technology company. And I'm still doing a little bit for them. I do a little consulting and I do a little sales stuff, but really, like, music is what I enjoy doing. You know, I like talking to people in sales. So that was why I kind of pipped and did a little of that. But really, like, at that point, I even quit doing that because I had a little rub with the owner and just wasn't, you know, I didn't quit. I keep coming to this too. Like, I left my job to quit working for people, and I keep fucking working for people. And it really frustrated me. And I was like, all right, dude, like, your music career is building. You're
Yeah.
building, like, you're getting income up. You're getting the point. You don't have that many bills. Like, why do you need to keep doing this? And so I did. Like, I called it a halt and I just worked on music. And now the past year or so, I've been playing 3 to 6 shows a week. I pay my bills. I keep my bills cheap, but I also, like, I went on a 9-week tour down through the South this last spring. So I'm like, I just, you know, I'm good with money. I know how to handle it. I know how to manage it. And so even if I don't have a whole bunch coming in, I'm good with it. And I've also been kind of blessed, I feel like, with money. Like, my dad was always really good about, like, teaching me financial responsibility and tracking and, like, understanding interest rates and some of the financial literacy that a lot of people these days don't get. And actually the schools get kind of lambasted for not teaching. And I was fortunate that I had a father that was super responsible and understood it all and willing to take the time to teach.
Yeah.
One of the things he did that I thought was really cool, that I would say, like, any parent should do, was he didn't give us an allowance. We would get an allowance, but we didn't get the money until we withdrew it. So he gave us he loved Excel. He printed out a balance sheet. And every week you'd write in your income, which was, I think, a $5, you know, allowance, and then X amount if you mowed the lawn, and Y amount if you did this. And then when you withdrew it from him, you'd say, "Hey, Dad, I want $20 to go to the movie." You'd be like, "Cool." You had to withdraw it from your balance sheet. So at like 10 or 11 years old, we were using balance sheets, like, in our day to day. Why did I go to that? Oh, because I was good at managing money or whatever. So that's where that started.
No,
And
that's
so
fascinating. Hey, that's a hell of a pro tip for myself and other fathers out there, other families out there, is to be purposeful, to purposely slow down that conversation about money. It's something that I've contemplated quite a bit recently, which is just like, my son's almost 9. He's getting to that age where it's, he takes out the trash. We don't pay him for it, but it's like, it's one of those things where he's going to start. I would like to start teaching him some of those things. And I figured it would just be, kind of truing up at the end of the week. But I like your withdrawal system. I like not necessarily giving him the money, having a ledger so that we can see and understand the work that went into certain things, and then track essentially what decisions he's made with his money and, what he's trying to do with it. I think there's a lot of value in that. So that's, yeah, I
what
appreciate that.
it kind of made you appreciate your labor a little bit too. You know, like, when you were ready to make a withdrawal, you'd see all your incomes. It's like, I fucking hate mowing the lawn. I hate weeding. I hate raking leaves. I did all this to earn money. Is this thing I want to go buy really worth this withdrawal too?
Yeah.
So yeah, my dad was brilliant, man, in a lot of ways. But that was one thing I really like. I actually made it a note to bring it up here, and I just kind of organically got on it. So I'm glad I remembered. But yeah, it was, I think, just that financial literacy and being able to understand money and percentages and, just having a handle on it, it's big, and it's allowed me to have a lot of freedom in my professional and personal life.
Dude, I'm gonna pivot a little bit because I'm really interested in somebody who's had so many repetitions now, like yourself. And I know that you love playing music. You're like you said, you're in the clubs, playing different shows, 3 to 6 days a week, restaurants, bars, all kinds of different places. Um, Dude, the public is interesting. People are interesting. You've got to have a couple of stories, or at least one or two, of just things you've seen and things people have said to you, dude. Like, I love pulling that stuff out on the podcast.
Yeah. Um, I think like there's so many come to mind. I will say like a couple things that are fascinating to me is um, how little self-awareness drunk people have sometimes.
Yeah.
And by that I mean like, and I don't hate on these people, but you just can't help as a musician just being like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, so it's inevitable. I'll set up somewhere, right? And I'm here, and the audience is out there, and there's all these tables and chairs, and there's some that are really close to the stage, some that are very far away from the stage. And it's inevitable that some really drunk person will come and sit right next to the stage and have the loudest fucking conversation that you've ever heard in your life. And so you're sitting there trying to play music, and they're like, yeah, so my fucking boss tells me to get the crane out of the way. And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, dude, you don't even like, I'm not even here. Like they think they're listening to a fucking jukebox that's turned up too much. And and you know what? That's the other thing is like, I've probably been that dude a number of times, and I'm a
Sure.
musician and a music fan. You just don't think about it. And then I think it's like, to me, the favorites are like when little kids are there, like, not sound creepy. Little kids are just so like genuine and
Oh yeah.
free. And like when a little kid is digging what you're doing and they're dancing and clapping, you just see them like fixated, like, what the fuck is going on? That's really fun for me, because then you kind of like, I don't know, you feel like you made an impact on that kid, like whether they remember it their whole life or not, like they had a cool interaction with you playing music. And yeah, I mean, I've had people come like, fuck, early on, I had a guy come tell me that I sang a Johnny Cash song better than Johnny Cash. And I was like, no fucking way. But it's still like such a kind thing to say. And I don't think he was, and that's the other thing that I've come to is like, music's really relative, like it's very, it's personal, like just because you like somebody's voice doesn't mean somebody else will. I mean,
Yeah.
there's people that love Tom Waits, and I personally don't get it. Um, I love his music, but I think he's a shitty singer, Sorry, Tom
Sure.
Waits. I'm sure Tom Waits tunes into your podcast, but
Yeah, Tom was a regular listener, but I guess he's gonna smash that unsubscribe button now, Matt.
oh, sorry, man. I lost you a big one. But yeah, it's there's a ton of it, like getting to meet really genuine people. I had a cool experience where I played a show at the Loman Inn. Great little spot. If you guys don't know, the Loman Inn's it's in Loman, obviously, but it's right by the hot springs. You stay in yurts. They got great food and beer and all that shit. But I'd played there, and it was Christmas Eve. I played a show there. It's kind of having a little family tussle, so we weren't talking that much. But so I was up there for Christmas Eve, and there's some people up there too that were staying in the yurts, and this young lady bought a shirt from me, and it was her first time seeing it. This always blows. I sell merch now, and people will buy merch from me the first time they see me, and that really blows me away. And so this gal bought a shirt, right? And so then it was cool, got a shirt, hug, all that. So then like a month ago, I went back to back to the Loman Inn. I don't think I'd played there since that Christmas Eve show. And I'm getting into my, I'm getting my yurt set up. I go down to set up my music, and this young lady shows up with my shirt on. And I was like, that's a great looking shirt. And all of a sudden she's like, oh my God, I bought this shirt from you. And had this like just cool, like, thanks for coming. She's like, I didn't even know you were here. I just happened to be up here, and I always wear your shirt. I love your shirt. And so she ended up buying another shirt because she wears it all the time. But that was really cool to me. Like just those kind of weird, like idiosyncrasies, like synchronicities where random shit happens, and it probably shouldn't as far as probability goes, but it ends up happening.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I like that hat you got on too, man. I'm gonna have to bug you for one of those
Oh,
eventually.
I got you one.
All right. All right. I dig that, man. I think I got you. Did I ever get you a podcast shirt?
I don't think you did.
I'm gonna have to get you one when the next order
We're gonna
comes
have
through.
to have a merch
Yeah,
exchange, huh?
we'll have a little merch exchange. Get on the old merch
If you
exchange.
want, if you want to lose your mind, I can give your kids kazoos too.
Oh, dude, yeah, hook my kids up with kazoos. I'll just lock the door and keep them outside. They can go out in the backyard and kazoo all they want.
Yeah,
Uh,
there you go.
hey, so um, kind of an interesting question here in the standpoint of is it fair to say that when you left, actually, I'll stop leading the witness here. Do you feel like you're doing what you set out to do?
No, I mean,
Okay.
kind of like I'm work. Good question. I am in that I am working for myself. I'm making my own money. I'm responsible for my own income and outcome, and it's all me. I'm doing it in that perspective. My original goal when I left was to use cajon alone as maybe like a starter, a stepping stone to get into working in hemp, and not necessarily CBD. I do think CBD is powerful and it's got a lot of potential, but getting back to using industrial hemp for industrial purposes, building homes, making ropes, new technology. There's some amazing technology around hemp that's coming out. The problem was I live in Idaho, and it's hemp's now it's legal, but at the time it wasn't. And just generally, like everyone was going for CBD hemp. Like CBD hemp grows different than industrial hemp genetically and as far as the way you plant it and treat it and everything. And so, um, and you actually, Jake, if you don't know, Jake is also a great business coach. He actually helped me start a business. I got it from inception to, I completely blanched over that, but I basically got it from inception to market. And then when it was time to go to market, I just really lost my passion for it because it wasn't a product I loved. It was basically doing animal bedding. So like for chickens and guinea
Yeah.
pigs to shit in, and it just wasn't where my passion lied. So I guess, yeah, in one perspective, yes, because I am now doing my own thing. Now it is funny because it's different than the way I thought I would do it. You know, I thought Cajon Alone would be a business where I would produce products and I would sell it to people. And I do that, but I've only sold like 2 or 3 of these things, man. Like they're just for whatever reason, like musicians, I don't know if they think it's like it's my thing and I don't want to give it up when I clearly do because I want everybody to do it. Like I'd love it to be the next guitar, right? I'd love it to be something that's just like another subset of what people do. But yeah, for whatever reason, it just hasn't really caught on. And my original intent to playing music with the Cajon alone was to market my product. And instead,
Mm,
it turned into a viable career where I'm able to play for a living because, you know, um, I've had some bars that are very generous and very kind to me. But, you know, if you have like a 4 or 5 or a 6 or 7 piece band, you know, a bar like shit, it doesn't matter how much they sell, they're gonna have a hard time paying everybody in that band enough to support themselves or support their family unless you get to the next echelon. You know, you gotta like, and so for me, it kind of gave me the opportunity to, as a one person setup, do all these different things that gave me a full band sound. And then it kind of like now it's turned into, oh, it's this quirky little one man band guy, but he does cool shit and he's funny and he interacts with the crowd and he does cool marketing stuff. I list my song list online so people can do requests. So yeah, it just wasn't like, even if Cajon Alone would have like if Cajon Alone was the thing I did, it didn't end up the way I thought it would go.
yeah, for sure. Dude, I appreciate the shout out on um, business coaching relationship that we had during that process as well. That
You
was a
were
really
awesome.
fun. That was a
You
fun
dealt with my
experience for me,
lazy
man.
ass and my excuses and like, yeah, you were great, man.
Oh man, that was a while ago. I did not that I necessarily forgot about it. It was just one of those things. It was a what a fun industry you were working in and starting up. But to your point, you got to do the things that you're passionate about, and that's what I'm most
Right.
interested in now. Is yeah, with you is how are you navigating life today? You have acquired this perspective. You had this. You did the education thing, right? You did the corporate thing. You did the busking musician innovation product development thing. You've invested in companies. Some have worked out, some have not. You have um, you're where you are now. You're playing music. You're having a good time. Where's that marker at? What are you trying to do? Album? What else?
I don't know. Honestly, man, I feel like I'm in kind of a transitional point right now.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I'm kind of doing this album because I've had, you know, to be honest, it was a little bit to push myself. I'm really bad about coming up with parts of songs and never finishing them. So I was like, I basically prepaid for 4 songs with a local producer, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this 4-song album. And so it's forced me to now finish those. So
Mm,
a lot depends on, I think, how that's received. If people love my original music, I don't know, I'll probably push on it more and keep doing more of it. If people don't, then that tells me that's probably not what I'm supposed to do. I'm honestly, man, like right now I'm kind of, I have no problem booking. I'm paying my bills. I make plenty of money. I do really well. But I've also had the thought a little bit of like, I'm like, I have a little worry that I'm going to burn myself out on my passion. That is a legitimate worry for me. And then also when you put money, when you all of a sudden you tag money onto something you love doing, it puts more pressure on it. And I track my income, and like, um, I hung out with the stripper for a little bit, and she made this kind of, really, at the time it was really strange to me, but it was really an interesting now in hindsight. But she's like, there was days where I would work, and if I didn't make money off tips, I felt like a total piece of shit. I felt ugly. I felt this. I felt that. And it didn't have much to do with like the job she did on the stage. It was like just that it was kind of a bad night. And I feel that way sometimes with music. Like, and it's like, as someone that's really tried to like devalue money in my mind and in my heart, and realize it's not even real. It's a fucking fiat currency that has no backing, and it could all go down tomorrow. Like, I try to keep that mentality, but I'm also a gamer. Like, I want to win, and I want to see whatever grow. And so like, that's definitely like a little bit of a challenge. And I would say like I feel like I'm almost at like a transitional point where I can double down and just go hard as fuck on music, and I want to put together a full band. The cajon thing's great, but I've got a booking agent that has opportunities for me if I had a full band, where I could go and play badass venues and make good money and open for cool people. But I need to have original music, and I need to have a band. So my feeling right now is like, I will always be doing music as part of my income. There just might be a point where I do some other things that I still enjoy, to take some of the pressure off it monetarily, so that I'm not like beat myself up if I don't make as much in tips as I did the night before.
yeah.
Or, I get bummed out if I have 2 shows instead of 6 or 7 or 8 shows in a week. And it's amazing. It's fun. I love doing it. The worst day playing music doesn't even sniff at the worst day being a marketing director for me. And
Yeah.
so, and the best days are way better than the best days there too. So I feel like it'll always be something I do. I just don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know what the future holds. Like, and I don't know if people on your podcast probably have their shit together more than me, and are like, oh, I'm going
No,
this and this and
dude,
this, and my
you know
5-year
what?
plan. But for
It's the
me,
fun.
like, I embrace that about myself. I'm cool with it. Like, I like the fact that I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I have a general idea and I've got some thoughts, but life's too fluid to try and be static, man. You gotta be willing to go
Yeah.
with the flow.
That as far as podcast guests go, man, I have real people on the podcast. You're a real person, man. I'm interested in you and your story. And there's no right way to live a life, brother. This like, there's a lot of people that have a lot of financial success that are emotionally destroyed. And they're not finding the good and the happiness and chasing passions and those things. So I think it's being able to maintain a healthy conversation with yourself and make sure that you are checking in. Am I starting to erode this
Right.
passion? And
Yeah.
then how do I redirect some energy, or how do I take the pressure off of this, so I don't crumble it under its own weight and make it
Yeah.
something that it was never to me. And that's what I'm really interested in with you, because like that's one of my I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is I went to school for supply chain management. Okay.
Mhm.
When I was a little boy, I didn't grow up dreaming of supply chain management. But when I got to college and I was an English major, and I realized what English majors made, and then I realized that there was a lot of business majors, and that I might want to specialize a little bit and niche down. Um, I didn't love it. It's purchasing problems, it's ops problems. It fits my personality pretty well. I've grown to
You're really good
really,
at it.
yeah, I've grown to really love it, really enjoy it, those types of things. But at the time, I had to pull myself in the direction it was not pulling me. Right. And so like that's one of my fears as well. Is like I love Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I know how much I love Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but I tell you, at this point in my life, with the other pressures and things that I have going on, if somehow magically I was good enough at jujitsu to have a school and start teaching and have to pay my bills around it and do all those sorts of things, I could see how I could potentially erode my passion for it. Or if I did it in the right way, it would enhance it. So it's
Right.
like, and that's a powerful perspective, my man. I love where you're at today.
Yeah, well, and just to be clear, I'm not pumping the brakes at all. Like I'm still booking. Like I just booked out September and working on October. So that's my other. I do have a little bit of a fear that like one day I'm gonna burn out. I'm gonna have like 3 more months of work, but um,
Just
it
the
could be worse,
saddest,
man.
just the saddest cajon. You just play
You're
blues
like,
the whole time.
I'm playing all sad shit tonight, guys. But no, it's
Well,
I don't think that'll ever happen. But I just like
yeah,
it is a concern, and I like. And the other thing is, the other things I've told you, money doesn't like money's not. It drives me, but I don't want it to. Like
yeah,
I don't want that to be my driver. My biggest want and my biggest like passion is to make a positive impact on the world and help change the world in a good way. And so that's one thing. Like when I talk about something besides music, it wouldn't be like working at a gas station or anything. Not that there's anything against that. It's just like I wouldn't be like settling into something that doesn't make me happy. It would be something that I'm like doing flat backflips about. I think will really help the world, something that makes a positive impact. Maybe I make a couple bucks doing it, but like that's where my head's at. I don't like it's really I try not to chase money. Sometimes my cheap ass German jeans can't help it, but um I really do like I'm trying really hard to like find
yeah,
find something that'll make an impact on the world. And so yeah, long story short, I guess that's kind of where my
yeah,
head's at as far as like what's next. If I wanted
yeah.
to do something else, if I wanted to pivot, if I wanted to add a couple hours that I do consulting or something like that would be kind of the direction I'd be looking to go. And that's why I loved hemp so much, was like just the big world implications of it and the things you could do. And unfortunately that stupid fucking marijuana bill back in the 40s really derailed us on the whole thing. And now we're, decades behind every other major company that never, or every other major country that's never stopped using hemp. So yeah, I guess that's kind of like,
Where your head's at today.
yeah.
I
I mean,
love it.
I wouldn't be
Well,
jumping off to go. I mean, maybe one day who knows, maybe one day I get an itch and I'm like, man, I really didn't like, I want to try marketing again. It was a good challenge for me. Like there was parts I loved about it, like there was things like when you fuck, man. So I launched, so my job was I was the marketing director. So I handled all the marketing and advertising for anywhere from 80 to 200 stores, depending on the time I was running the division. And so, some of my jobs were like, I had to do a sign kit for the store. And this was like a whole fucking sign kit, the entire store, basically rebranding the entire store, trying to get some credit for local stuff. And like, it was a huge undertaking and it took months. And so it was really like, it sucked and it was a grind, but it was also really rewarding when I got to the store and I'm like, oh man, I did this. Like
yeah.
it was real. And so yeah, anyway, I don't feel that right now, but I also never say never, like you change all the time as a person.
Yeah. Well, brother, we are coming up on time here. An hour together is fantastic. We've spent some
It's
time
an
with you.
hour? Fuck.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we've already hit an hour. Hey, I want to make sure that the folks know what you still with me? Oh no, we had a little lag. Bum, bum, bum. We'll see if he comes back.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, there you are. Hey, yeah, all good. Hey, so this podcast will go out the last week of July. So
Okay.
like shout out some August dates. Where can people find you? Where can they go to see your upcoming shows? Like what's the best way to engage with you, to interact with you in some meaningful way on the gosh dang internets?
Yeah, so I mean I've got August. I just pulled up August because I had to remember what all I was doing, but I've got a ton of shows in August. I'm at Beer Guys and Star the first week of August. I'm at Sturman's in Garden City the first week of August. Up at the Gold Mine up in Idaho City. I'm at the Sandbar in Garden City. I'm at Cary Hill Winery. So I play a boatload of music. And so the best way to keep up with it, I post everything on my social media pages. So Facebook and Instagram. My handle is Cajonalone, CajonAlone. So if you search Cajonalone on Facebook or Instagram, I should come up and be easy to follow. That's where I post all my shows and post videos and content. When I travel, I do travel blog kind of stuff where I show pictures and videos. I think I'm a pretty entertaining follow. So
Hell yeah, you are.
if you're looking to, if you want to see my trip through the South, I got all that shit on there. I had some awesome experience. I still need to wrap that up and do some kind of summary. Been thinking about doing like a picture book for it or something. We should talk about that. I'll tell you like some of that shit offline. But yeah, that's a good way to keep in touch with me. Just Cajon Alone. I'm also not weird about like, reach out to me, man. My phone number's on the website. My email's on the website. Like if you ever have a question, or I do private events, weddings, DJ shit. Like I kind of do a lot of things in music. So, or if you're ever just like, I don't think you're good, but I want to find another musician. Like I know a lot of musicians. So I guess I'm just like, I'm open to the world, man. Fucking hit me up.
I love it, man. And hey, what a pleasure knowing you, my friend. Meeting almost 17 years ago. I can tell you, I always like when I have guests on that are personal friends and people I've known for a long time, I always like to give them a little bit of the impact they've had on me. So let me tell you this, an impact that you've had on me. So my band, when I was a bassist playing in Kinetic up in Alaska.
Didn't you guys open for 36?
No, not really. That's a long story. So we broke up in January of 2005. And I had not hardly played any music. I didn't touch my bass basically the rest of my senior year, and then all of that summer. And the first time I really got an opportunity to pick up my bass again and play, or I was in the mindset to play or wanting to play, is when you and I connected and you and I got to play together. And I can tell you, being 18 years old, I might have been 19 at the time, might have just turned 19, but being in a different state, feeling like my life was completely different, but being able to sit down and do something that I enjoyed made me feel connected to myself, connected to my passions. It was something that was really important for me mentally to be able to do and find somebody to do it with. And it actually, like, I was a pretty stressed out guy. I had to drop 2 classes. College was overwhelming me. Like, I didn't know what was going on, but like, it was an important thing to like scratch an itch of something that I was passionate about and find people in my ecosystem that enjoyed concerts and music and made me feel, normal for being me. So I appreciate who you are, man. And it was what a pleasure getting to know you, 17 years ago.
Yeah, man, I'm honored that I could have that positive impact with you, man. It's been a pleasure as well, and it's been fun to see you grow. And it's funny, we disconnected for a number of years and then just kind of kept randomly running into each other and ended up playing in that 90s band and shit. And it's been cool to watch you grow and have this beautiful family and these great kids and have all the success. So I'm proud of you, man, and I'm stoked you're in my tribe, bud.
I appreciate you, brother. All right, hey, thanks for joining me on the Jake Blanchard podcast, and until the next one. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.